Rick, you ready to do this?
Good morning, Keith. I sure am.
The title of this episode is The Old Me Didn't Get Along with Anyone. Rick, when I wasn't being completely forthright, upon reflection of the old me, I used to think that I didn't like just a few people or just a few things or situations. It turns out, Rick, that I didn't like almost anything and anyone when you boil it down, especially if it came to me not getting what I wanted. So a couple examples are, I didn't like the government, depending on who got in office. And then if it was a person who I wanted to get in office, if they didn't do something that I thought they should have done, I didn't like them either. I mean, the driver in front of me, you and I talked about traffic all the times, I often didn't like the drivers that were on the road. I didn't like my boss if I didn't get, the stroke or the acknowledgement for work that I did. I didn't like that. I didn't like my girlfriends if they hit my stuff. I didn't like that either. So, and then most recently, up until I started working on myself about a year and a half ago, I didn't like some of my partners on the pickleball court if if they didn't play the way that I thought they should, So, and then lastly, there may have been one or two family members along the way, Rick, too, that that I didn't like. So, I mean, the old me, what I've learned is that when it doesn't get what it wants, little Keith doesn't get what he wants, he doesn't like it. I mean, he becomes a 5-year old. And that is a hard way to live. Unfortunately, the practice, having great influences like you and some of our other friends in my life have really contributed to me shedding, evolving beyond that old Keith to who I am today. And I know I have to consistently work on myself so I show up this way on a regular basis, and this is the new norm. But on reflection, man, the old me did not like a lot, Rick. What about the old Rick?
Oh, I'm right there with you. The old Rick is only an inch away, unless I have the practice and I keep reminding myself to be in the moment, to accept all things as whether without judging them as good or bad, accept all of them, work my way through them, and also continue to work on my fitness and my meditation and my inner peace and the things that I want to accomplish in my life and who I want to be. That's the practice. If I don't do that, then the old Rick is front and center. It's all about ego and me. And the thing that's detrimental that I found that was so dysfunctional in the way I used to live was I would go from one thing to hate to another. It seemed like I had nothing but lists of hate. If only you were more like me,
Yeah,
we would have this problem.
exactly, right?
And
Yeah.
so it was literally everything. I mean, I got to the point where I was even mad at what I call, quote, physics. Now, this is a stupid way to call everyday things by a technical term, like based on science, physics. But what I mean by physics in my head, this is a shortcut for saying, okay, I dropped, let's say, a jar of honey on the floor, and I was in a hurry, and now it's going to take me 10 minutes to clean it up. Oh my God, I was so mad about that. Or I can't find my keys, or
Yeah.
get I can't get this dripping faucet to stop. And so I would act out. I would literally throw things. I would take that jar of honey sometimes, whatever it might be, jar of honey, something else, and throw it across the room.
Right.
And this was all coming about by virtue of me wanting reality to be something different, wanting me to be front and center. How dare you offend me by falling to the floor and creating a mess I have to clean up? And I
Right.
hate that. And so I would act out. So my whole life, for a long time was just crap I hated. And it taught me something very important, which is that you only have so many times in your lives, everyone's life, to believe that you are going to be doing something that's important and valuable. There's only a certain amount of times when that occurs. The rest of it, life is pretty much things that are going to happen that you know are going to happen. And you can have an attitude about that, which is, it's not right, and I'm mad about it, and I'm gonna act out. Or you can be accepting, and you can understand that things are the way they are, and just simply accept them. Accept them. Change what you can, and if you can't, then you have to accept and not act out. So my ego ran my life for years, and it was miserable because I was focused on hate. I
Hmm.
was within me. I had so much frustration and so much anger, uh, and I just wanted to just have it all stop. And the only way I could think to make it stop was to do this acting out until I got to the practice. And when the practice hit me, and there's no going back. Now, one thing to keep in mind, we've said this before many times, even with the practice, it's a human software installation that causes you to constantly want things to be your way, want things to be only your way, and want things to be perfect and pleasurable, and that's it. Well, that's just not going to happen. So as soon as you recognize that software has a built-in error, the sooner you can correct it.
Yeah, I completely agree. And for the longest time, I thought the glitch was out there and not in here.
That's right. Yeah.
Tur- It,
All
tur-
everybody else, not me. I'm perfect.
it turns out that, the malfunction was going inside. But once I got that, I stopped being, a person who was always walking into spaces looking for what was wrong, what was missing, what needs to be done to improve it. The same thing goes for people. I mean, you think about it, life was going on just fine before I walked into the space, right? It was, that restaurant where the lighting isn't right, that restaurant's been there for 100 years. All of a sudden I walk in, now it's a problem, and they need to change it immediately. And I just really like, man, that is a hard way to live, where your whole life becomes you being aggrieved. You
Mhm.
are walking grievance looking for a cause.
Yeah.
When
Wow. Well said.
Yeah,
Yeah.
when all you do is complain. Like, and I was becoming that person that everything out of my mouth was complaint. Man, I know people that live that way right now, and that's a hard way to live, Rick. Hard way. So yeah, the old me, Rick, didn't like much, especially when I didn't get what I wanted, and I just keep every time I think about that, I'm like, what am I, 5 years old? I can handle not getting what I want. That's what 5-year-olds do. They act out like that. And so, Rick, thank you for a great show. I'm glad that we have both become conscious and we work on ourselves. And people often ask me, like, man, Keith, you do a lot of work on yourself. And I say, I do it so you don't have to work on me. You should be thanking me that I'm doing this every day because I just made your life better. Because I'm not showing up causing problems and being a troublemaker for you. And yeah, so Rick, thank you. I love you.
I love your journey, brother, and I really appreciate hearing your stories and how you've worked on yourself and how you've come to a place of peace inside and how you radiate love. I really, really enjoy being in your presence.
Great. Thank you, Rick. I appreciate that. Bye bye.
Yes.